The family of the person you love made a decision about you last night. And what they decided is something you need to hear. My beloved child. Don't skip, because what you're about to hear isn't an ordinary story. It begins with a conversation that happened behind closed doors last night, where the family of the person you love finally stopped avoiding your name. For weeks, maybe even months, they watched in silence. They noticed every change in the one you care about. The smiles that appeared for no reason. The moments they stared out the window thinking about someone they couldn't forget. The way they defended a person nobody else fully understood. And then, something unexpected happened. A single sentence changed the entire atmosphere in that room. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody walked away. Instead, an unusual silence filled every corner, the kind of silence that only appears before an important decision is made. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What they decided wasn't based on rumors anymore. It wasn't based on fear. It came after someone finally spoke the truth that had been hidden for far too long. Imagine sitting outside that room, hearing nothing except small whispers, knowing your future might be changing with every passing second. That's exactly where this story begins. The person you love had no idea what was about to happen. They entered that room expecting another difficult conversation, another round of questions, another list of reasons why everything seemed impossible. But this time felt different. Every face carried a different expression. Every glance hinted that something had shifted overnight. One family member looked nervous. Another looked thoughtful. Someone else quietly admitted they had been wrong about you from the very beginning. That unexpected confession didn't solve everything. But it opened a door nobody expected to open. Don't skip. Because what happened next started changing hearts one by one, and the biggest surprise hadn't even arrived yet. For a long time, everyone believed they already knew who you were. They built opinions from incomplete stories, misunderstood moments, and assumptions that grew larger every time they were repeated. But last night, one person refused to stay silent any longer. They stood up and said something so unexpected that every conversation immediately stopped. They reminded everyone of the sacrifices nobody had noticed. They pointed out the kindness that had quietly gone unseen. They asked one simple question that nobody in the room could answer: what if we've been judging the wrong person this entire time? Suddenly, every confident opinion became uncertainty. Every old conclusion started falling apart. The family members looked at each other differently. They began remembering little details they had ignored before. The times you showed patience when others expected anger. The moments you respected boundaries when you could have chosen selfishness. The quiet strength you carried without asking for recognition. Piece by piece, the picture they once believed started changing into something completely different. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The person you love sat there speechless, watching everything unfold in real time. Their heartbeat quickened because this wasn't supposed to happen. They expected another night filled with resistance, but instead they witnessed something much more powerful: doubt turning into understanding. Yet one family member still hadn't spoken. Everyone kept glancing toward them, almost as if their opinion would decide everything. They remained silent for what felt like forever. Then they slowly leaned forward, folded their hands, and quietly said, "Before we make this decision, there's one thing all of you still don't know." The room froze again. Every eye turned toward them. And in that single moment, it became clear that the biggest revelation had been saved until the very end. What happened after those words changed the direction of the entire conversation. The final person began sharing details nobody else had heard before. Not dramatic accusations. Not unbelievable stories. Just honest observations collected over time. They explained how the person you love had changed in ways nobody could ignore. How they had become calmer, more hopeful, more determined, and strangely more patient whenever your name entered a conversation. They admitted they had secretly watched these changes for months without telling anyone because they wanted to be certain before speaking. That honesty carried more weight than anyone expected. The atmosphere inside the room shifted completely. For the first time, the discussion wasn't about whether you deserved a place in their future. It became about whether they had been unfair to you all along. One by one, expressions softened. Questions replaced judgments. Curiosity replaced resistance. And then, the oldest voice in the room finally spoke. Everyone immediately became silent because this was the opinion that usually ended every family discussion. They looked around the room, took a deep breath, and said, "If everything we've heard tonight is true, then perhaps we've been standing in the way of something that was never meant to be broken." Those words landed like thunder inside every heart. The person you love couldn't believe what they had just heard. Their eyes filled with emotion, not because every problem had disappeared, but because hope had finally entered a room where hope had been missing for so long. Don't skip. Because something huge is waiting for you. That conversation did not end there. Before everyone left, another decision was quietly made, a decision involving you directly. It was so unexpected that even the person you love wasn't prepared for it. And what happened immediately after that decision is something you absolutely need to hear. My beloved child. Don't skip, because the next few moments reveal why that quiet decision became far more important than anyone expected. After the conversation finally settled, nobody rushed to leave the room. Instead, they remained seated as though they all understood that walking away too quickly might undo everything that had just changed. The silence no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt thoughtful. Every person seemed to be replaying the same memories from a completely different perspective. Then someone unexpectedly asked, "If we've misunderstood this situation for so long, what should we do now?" That question changed the atmosphere again. No one argued. No one interrupted. They simply began discussing what kind of future they truly wanted for the person they loved. For the first time, your name was spoken with respect instead of hesitation. They talked about your patience. They talked about your character. They talked about how the person you love had become stronger, more focused, and emotionally different after meeting you. Even those who once had doubts admitted they could no longer ignore those changes. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Just when it seemed everyone had finally reached the same conclusion, another family member quietly revealed that they had noticed something unusual during the previous week. The person you love had secretly protected your reputation during several difficult conversations without ever telling you. They refused to let misunderstandings grow. They defended your intentions even when you weren't present to defend yourself. Nobody in the room knew that until last night. Hearing that unexpected truth caused several people to lower their heads in silence. They suddenly realized this connection was much deeper than they had imagined. It wasn't built on excitement alone. It was built on loyalty. And loyalty is something that cannot be faked for long. As the night continued, the oldest member of the family suggested something nobody expected. Instead of making assumptions about your future, they wanted everyone to stop judging situations they had never personally witnessed. Those words carried incredible weight because they came from the one person whose opinion usually shaped every important family decision. The room became completely still again. One by one, family members admitted they had allowed fear to speak louder than facts. They confessed they had listened to opinions before listening to the heart of the person they loved. That realization wasn't easy to accept, but it opened a door that had remained locked for a very long time. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. The person you love sat quietly, overwhelmed by everything unfolding before their eyes. They never imagined they would witness such an honest conversation. Then another surprising question echoed through the room. If this connection truly brings peace instead of confusion, why have we been resisting it? Nobody answered immediately because every person was searching within themselves for the truth. It was no longer about proving who was right or wrong. It had become about protecting happiness before it slipped away forever. The conversation slowly transformed into something beautiful. Hope replaced doubt. Understanding replaced fear. Even the smallest gestures began to matter. A gentle smile. A quiet nod. A simple agreement. They may have looked insignificant from the outside, but together they formed a powerful turning point that nobody present would ever forget. Before the gathering finally came to an end, one last conversation happened privately between two family members, and this discussion would quietly shape everything that followed. They agreed that no more decisions should be made based on assumptions or outside opinions. Instead, they wanted to see the truth with their own eyes before reaching any final conclusion. That single agreement carried enormous meaning because it changed the direction of every future conversation about you. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Meanwhile, the person you love stepped outside into the cool night air, trying to process everything they had just experienced. Their heart felt lighter than it had in a long time, yet they couldn't stop thinking about one final sentence spoken just before everyone left. The oldest voice in the family had quietly said, "Tomorrow, we begin correcting what should never have gone wrong." Those words echoed again and again. What exactly did they mean? What were they planning to do? Why did everyone suddenly agree without asking another question? Even the person you love didn't know the full answer yet. But deep inside, they sensed something meaningful had already begun. What nobody realized was that before sunrise, someone in that family would take the very first step toward turning those words into reality, and that unexpected step would leave everyone completely surprised. My beloved child. Don't skip, because before the first light of morning reached the windows, the promise made the previous night was already beginning to take shape. While most people were still asleep, one member of the family quietly woke up with a single thought that refused to leave their mind. They kept replaying every word from the discussion, especially the moment when everyone admitted they might have misunderstood you. Instead of ignoring those feelings, they decided to act. Without telling anyone else, they gathered old conversations, remembered forgotten moments, and connected details that had never seemed important before. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. Every memory pointed toward the same conclusion: you had never been the source of the distance everyone feared. In fact, many of the happiest moments the person you love experienced had begun after you entered their life. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. That realization became impossible to ignore. Later that morning, another family member noticed the unusual change in their attitude and quietly asked what was happening. The answer was simple but powerful: "I think we've been looking at this story from the wrong side." Those words spread through the house faster than anyone expected. One by one, people started questioning their own assumptions instead of defending them. The walls that had stood for so long were beginning to crack. But then something completely unexpected happened. Hidden inside an ordinary conversation, someone revealed a truth they had never shared before. Months ago, the person you love had turned down an opportunity that would have taken them far away, not because they were afraid, but because they couldn't imagine leaving behind someone they truly believed in. Until that morning, nobody knew the real reason behind that decision. The room fell silent once again, and suddenly every sacrifice made perfect sense. As the hours passed, the atmosphere inside the home became almost unrecognizable. The conversations no longer centered on obstacles. Instead, they focused on possibilities. The family started asking questions they had never asked before. What kind of person inspires this much loyalty? Why does our loved one speak with so much peace whenever that name comes up? Have we been protecting them, or preventing their happiness? Those questions echoed through every room, and no one could answer them quickly. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. The person you love wasn't even aware that these conversations were continuing after they had left the house. They believed the meeting had ended, unaware that hearts were still changing behind the scenes. Then another unexpected voice entered the discussion. It belonged to someone who had remained mostly quiet for weeks, carefully observing everything without choosing sides. They calmly admitted that every time your name was mentioned, they noticed something impossible to fake: a genuine light returning to the eyes of the person you love. You can pretend many things, they said softly, but you can't pretend peace. Those few words carried more weight than a long speech. No one argued. No one laughed. Instead, they all sat quietly, realizing they had overlooked the most obvious truth of all. Genuine care leaves visible changes, and those changes had been there the entire time. Slowly, the family stopped asking whether you belonged in the future and started wondering how they could avoid making another mistake that might separate two people who clearly brought out the best in each other. Then came the moment that nobody saw coming. Late that afternoon, a small envelope was placed on the table. It wasn't filled with dramatic secrets or shocking evidence. Inside was something much more meaningful: a collection of simple memories, handwritten notes, and small reminders of moments when the person you love had spoken about you with quiet admiration. Every page reflected the same feeling: respect, trust, and hope. As each note was read aloud, the atmosphere became deeply emotional. Some smiled. Others lowered their eyes, realizing how many chances they had missed to understand the truth. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. When the final note was unfolded, one sentence captured everyone's attention: the best decisions in life are often the ones that require courage instead of certainty. Nobody knew exactly when those words had been written, but everyone felt their meaning. The oldest member of the family slowly stood, looked around the room, and said, "If we truly believe these words, then our next step should reflect them." The room became completely silent. Every person understood that another decision was about to be made, one far greater than the conversation from the previous night. This wasn't just about changing opinions anymore. It was about changing actions. And before the sun disappeared that evening, someone volunteered to take the very first step toward reaching out, a step so unexpected that even the person you love would be left speechless when they finally discovered what had been set into motion. My beloved child. Don't skip, because what happened before sunset became the turning point no one expected. The family member who had volunteered to take the first step didn't rush into action. Instead, they spent hours thinking carefully, determined that this time every word would come from honesty rather than assumption. When evening arrived, everyone gathered once again. The room felt different now. There was no tension, only anticipation. Then the oldest voice quietly said, "If we truly believe people deserve to be understood before they are judged, then today is the day we prove it." Those words settled over the room like a promise. Every face reflected the same realization. They could no longer allow fear to guide their decisions. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The person you love had no idea this second meeting was even taking place. They were somewhere else, wondering whether anything had really changed or whether the hope they felt the night before had simply been wishful thinking. But inside that house, something extraordinary was unfolding. One after another, family members admitted they wanted to move forward with open minds instead of old opinions. They agreed that respect should come before judgment and that genuine character should matter more than rumors or assumptions. It wasn't a dramatic celebration. It was something far more meaningful, a quiet decision made by people who had finally chosen understanding over misunderstanding. Yet before the meeting ended, one unexpected suggestion changed everything again. Someone proposed that the next step should not be delayed any longer. The room became completely silent because everyone knew exactly what that suggestion meant. The discussion that followed was unlike anything the family had experienced before. Instead of asking what could go wrong, they began asking what could finally go right. They spoke about second chances, about listening instead of assuming, and about how easily misunderstandings can grow when nobody has the courage to ask honest questions. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. The oldest member listened carefully before slowly standing once more. Their expression carried a calm confidence that immediately captured everyone's attention. If this connection has brought more peace than pain, they said, then perhaps our responsibility is not to stand in its way, but to understand it. No one interrupted. Those words reached every heart in the room. Even the family members who had once been the most uncertain quietly nodded in agreement. It wasn't because every question had been answered. It was because they had finally realized that some answers can only be found through trust, patience, and real conversations. At that very moment, another family member revealed they had already noticed a remarkable change in the person you love over the past several months. They smiled more often. They worried less. They spoke about the future with genuine excitement instead of hesitation. Those changes could not be ignored any longer. One by one, everyone accepted that something meaningful had been happening right in front of them all along. As the evening came to a close, the family reached a final understanding. They would no longer allow old misunderstandings to define tomorrow. Instead, they agreed to give the future an honest opportunity to unfold naturally. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The meeting ended quietly, but every person walked away carrying a different heart than the one they had arrived with. Meanwhile, the person you love looked up at the night sky, unaware that behind the scenes an entire chapter had quietly come to an end. They